Death is the only absolute contract humanity has ever signed. Across thousands of years, through the rise and fall of empires, the dust of the earth has swallowed kings, conquerors, prophets, and peasants alike. It is the inescapable rhythm of human existence, a biological certainty woven into the very fabric of our reality. But hidden deep within the most scrutinized, translated, and studied text in human history lies a chilling anomaly, a terrifying glitch in the human condition. In the early pages of the book of Genesis, amidst a monotonous drumbeat of ancient genealogies where every name is followed by the inescapable phrase, "and then he died," the rhythm suddenly stops. The text introduces a man from the antediluvian world. The mysterious era before the Great Flood, and offers a conclusion that has baffled theologians, archaeologists, and historians for millennia. 3 words in the original Hebrew shatter the natural order. Of this man, the scripture simply says, "He was not, he did not die." He did not perish. He vanished from the terrestrial plane, taken alive into the unknown. This is not just a theological footnote. It is the beginning of the darkest, most fiercely guarded mystery of antiquity. The man's name was Enoch. He was the 7th generation from Adam, a patriarch living in an era described by ancient texts as a time of towering giants, fallen angels, and unimaginable earthly corruption. To understand the sheer magnitude of Enoch's disappearance, we have to look at the world he supposedly inhabited. According to the chronological timeline of the Hebrew Bible, this was a twilight age of humanity, an era where the boundary between the divine and the mortal was dangerously thin. The Genesis account is frustratingly brief, stating only that Enoch lived for 365 years, that he walked faithfully with God, and that God took him. But this deafening silence left a vacuum that ancient scribes, mystics, and secret sects scrambled to fill. If a human being bypassed death, where did he go? What happened to his physical body? For centuries, the Orthodox religious establishment offered no answers, preferring to leave Enoch as a quiet, enigmatic saint. But beneath the sands of the Middle East, a far darker and more complex truth was waiting to be unearthed. In the winter of 1947, a Bedouin shepherd searching for a stray goat in the desolate cliffs of Qumran, near the Dead Sea, tossed a rock into a dark cave. Instead of the thud of stone against earth, he heard the sharp crack of shattering pottery. What he stumbled upon would become the greatest archaeological discovery of the 20th century, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among the thousands of fragmented parchments preserved in the dry desert air for 2 millennia were texts that the early church fathers had desperately tried to erase from history. Hidden within these ancient jars were multiple copies of a banned manuscript known as the Book of Enoch. For nearly 2,000 years, this text had been considered lost, surviving only in the isolated, high-altitude monasteries of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, who had inexplicably kept it in their biblical canon. When scholars finally translated the Aramaic and Hebrew fragments from Qumran, they realized exactly why the Orthodox establishment had buried Enoch's story. It was not a tale of quiet piety. It was a terrifying cosmic epic of rebellion, advanced technology, forbidden knowledge, and extraterrestrial contact. The Book of Enoch reveals that the man who never died did not just vanish into a peaceful paradise. He was abducted into the center of a celestial war. The banned text tells the story of the Watchers, a rogue faction of 200 angels who descended upon Mount Hermon. These beings were not the winged, haloed messengers of Renaissance paintings. They were formidable, terrifying entities who lusted after human women and traded divine secrets for earthly dominion. They taught humanity the arts of metallurgy, the crafting of swords and shields, the science of meteorology, the tracking of the stars, and the dark arts of root cutting and sorcery. In doing so, they triggered a catastrophic technological and moral acceleration that the Earth was not prepared to handle. The offspring of these rogue angels and human women were the Nephilim, monstrous titans who devoured the Earth's resources and eventually turned on humanity itself. The planet was drowning in blood and chaos, and the divine realm was preparing to pull the plug on the human experiment through a global cataclysm. In the midst of this apocalyptic nightmare, Enoch was chosen. He was not a warrior. He was a scribe. The Book of Enoch describes how this mortal man was taken from his home in the dead of night by terrifying beings. He writes of being lifted into the heavens, passing through layers of the atmosphere, and entering structures that defy ancient architectural understanding. Enoch describes houses made of pure, blazing fire, floors of crystal, and ceilings raining down lightning. He sees the storehouses of the winds, the mechanisms that control the stars, and the abyss where the rebellious angels are imprisoned in columns of eternal fire. When modern researchers, astrophysicists, and ancient astronaut theorists read these descriptions today, they are struck by a chilling realization. Enoch's visions do not sound like primitive religious metaphors. They read like the bewildered testimony of an ancient man trying to describe the interior of a massive spacecraft, dimensional gateways, and advanced celestial mechanics using the limited vocabulary of the Bronze Age. He is describing plasma, orbital trajectories, and cosmic physics. But the mystery of the man who never died deepens with a second, equally shocking twist. Enoch's abduction was not a one-way trip. According to the banned texts, he was sent back to Earth with a mission. He was ordered to deliver a message of impending doom to the fallen Watchers, a mortal man acting as the judge over immortal, terrifying entities. After delivering his judgment and recording the secrets of the cosmos for his children, the countdown ended. Enoch was taken permanently. He simply ceased to exist on the human plane. The early church fathers, horrified by the implications of angels mating with humans and a mortal traversing the stars, struck the Book of Enoch from the official Bible in the 4th century. They effectively silenced the man who conquered death, burying his cosmic journey under centuries of dogmatic silence. Yet, the concept of a human crossing the boundary of mortality had already infected the ancient world, and the anomaly was about to repeat itself. Nearly 2,000 years after Enoch supposedly vanished, the biblical narrative introduces a second man who defies the absolute rule of death. His name was Elijah, a fierce, rugged prophet who lived in the 9th century BCE during a time of brutal political corruption and spiritual warfare in the Kingdom of Israel. Unlike Enoch's quiet disappearance, Elijah's exit from the mortal coil was a violent, earth-shattering spectacle. The second book of Kings describes how Elijah, walking alongside his protege Elisha near the Jordan River, was suddenly separated from the earth by an anomaly. The sky tore open. The text describes a chariot of fire and horses of fire that descended violently, separating the two men. In a massive, terrifying whirlwind, Elijah was swept up into the heavens, his physical body disappearing into the sky, leaving behind only his cloak. This event sent shockwaves through the ancient Middle East. Just like Enoch, there was no body to bury, no tomb to venerate, no final resting place. The sheer physical description of Elijah's departure, a fiery vehicle descending from the sky, accompanied by a localized atmospheric disturbance, has fueled decades of intense debate. Historical purists view it as a powerful mythological allegory for the passing of prophetic authority. But a growing faction of alternative historians and ufologists point to the visceral, mechanical nature of the description. They argue that ancient people did not have the words for thrusters, exhaust flames, or anti-gravity propulsion, so they used the only high-tech equivalent they knew: chariots and horses made of fire. Regardless of the interpretation, the parallel is undeniable. Two men, separated by millennia, completely bypassed the biological necessity of death, taken by mysterious forces into the sky. The survival of these two men created a theological crisis that rippled through the centuries. If human bodies, composed of flesh, blood, and bone, could exist in a divine or extra-dimensional space, what exactly did they become? Nature abhors a vacuum, and mysticism rushed in to fill the void. By the Middle Ages, the Jewish esoteric tradition known as the Kabbalah offered a terrifying and awe-inspiring answer to the fate of the man who never died. According to the Book of Palaces, the core text of Jewish mysticism, when Enoch was taken into heaven, his physical body could not survive the intense, radioactive presence of the divine. To survive, his flesh was violently transformed. The texts describe his muscles turning into blazing fire, his bones to burning coals, and his eyes into blinding torches. He was stripped of his humanity and forged into something terrifying. He became Metatron, the highest of the archangels, the voice of God, a being so immensely powerful that he is referred to in secret texts as the Lesser Yahweh. The mortal man who walked the dirt of the ancient earth was now an entity operating the machinery of the universe. This transformation terrified Orthodox rabbis and Christian clerics alike. It suggested a blasphemous, dangerous idea: that the boundary between human and divine, between mortal and immortal, was not a solid wall, but a permeable membrane. If Enoch could become a godlike entity, what did that mean for the rest of humanity? This forbidden concept birthed underground secret societies, alchemical orders, and occult groups obsessed with finding the keys of Enoch, the supposed lost knowledge of immortality and dimensional transit. Throughout the Renaissance, men like John Dee, the brilliant court astronomer and spy for Queen Elizabeth I, became obsessed with contacting these entities, claiming to have discovered the Enochian language, the mathematical, sonic code of the angels. Dee believed that the man who never died had left behind a blueprint for humanity to hack the matrix of reality. But as the centuries passed, the mystery of the immortals took on a darker, more ominous tone. The idea of men who cannot die began to haunt the edges of civilization, morphing into the legend of the Wandering Jew, a man cursed to walk the earth until the end of time, and the rumors of the Apostle John, of whom Christ cryptically hinted, might not taste death until his return. Humanity became obsessed with the idea that immortal observers were walking among us, hiding in plain sight, manipulating the course of history. Secret archives in the Vatican and hidden Masonic lodges are rumored to hold documents tracking the appearances of strange, ageless figures who emerge during times of great global crisis, only to vanish without a trace. Are these echoes of Enoch and Elijah? Are they temporal agents trapped outside the flow of normal time? The most chilling aspect of the men who never died, however, is not their past, but their prophesied future. According to the deepest layers of biblical eschatology, no one truly escapes the contract of death. They can only delay it. The final book of the Bible, the Book of Revelation, outlines a horrifying apocalyptic climax to human history. In Revelation chapter 11, it is prophesied that during the absolute darkest hour of the earth, just before the final global war, two witnesses will suddenly appear in Jerusalem. They will possess terrifying power, the ability to summon fire, stop the rain, and strike the earth with plagues. For exactly 1,260 days, they will be untouchable. Early church fathers, medieval scholars, and modern apocalyptic theologians all agree on the secret identity of these two mysterious figures. They are Enoch and Elijah. The universe, it seems, demands balance. The anomaly must be corrected. The ancient text prophesied that these two men who bypassed the grave thousands of years ago have been kept in a state of suspended animation, preserved in an extra-dimensional space, solely for this final mission, and their fate is sealed. The prophecy explicitly states that an entity known only as the beast will rise from the abyss, wage war against them, and finally, brutally, kill them. Their dead bodies will be left in the streets of the ruined city for 3.5 days, while the world celebrates their demise. The men who cheated death will finally pay their toll. The cosmic glitch will be resolved. Today, we look back at the story of the man who never died through a fractured lens of science, religion, and myth. Modern archaeology continues to unearth fragments of forgotten texts in the Middle East, each one hinting at a civilization far older and far stranger than the textbooks allow. Quantum physicists discuss multiple dimensions, parallel universes, and the theoretical folding of spacetime, using equations that eerily mirror the fiery, crystalline visions recorded by a terrified scribe named Enoch millennia ago. Were these men simply abducted by advanced beings from another star system, plucked from the Earth to preserve the genetic and historical record of humanity before a global cataclysm? Were they dimensional travelers who accidentally slipped through a temporal anomaly, vanishing from our reality into another? Or is the truth something far more profound, a spiritual reality that modern man, with all his technology, is entirely unequipped to comprehend? The mystery of Enoch remains one of the most haunting enigmas of the human experience. It challenges our most fundamental understanding of reality, biology, and history. It suggests that our ancient ancestors were not just primitive wanderers gazing blankly at the stars, but witnesses to cosmic events that we are only now beginning to piece together. As we send our own probes into the deep dark of space and push the boundaries of genetic longevity, we are quietly chasing the very same forbidden knowledge that the Watchers supposedly traded for earthly daughters. We are trying to find the door that Enoch walked through. But as the ancient warnings make clear, the realms beyond our own are terrifying, incomprehensible, and violently protective of their secrets. The man who never died is out there, trapped in the architecture of eternity, a silent witness to a universe we are too fragile to understand. And if the ancient prophecies hold even a sliver of truth, his story is not over. He is waiting in the dark. And one day, the anomaly will return.